Good morning, and welcome to another episode of Old Men in Chairs. You know, I do a lot of political commentary and a lot of political songs, but sometimes I just like to do songs for the love of the music. In fact, I've started a Rumble channel that's strictly for music only without the usual commentary. And today I'd like to do a song by an artist that I've admired for well over 50 years. He's been called the greatest soul singer that you never heard of. His name was Howard Tate. In 1967, he released an album titled Get It While You Can on Verve Records. He'd had a hit with that song and a couple other songs, including the one I'm going to do today called Ain't Nobody Home. These songs were later covered by more famous artists. Ain't Nobody Home was done by B.B. King. Get It While You Can was famously done by Janis Joplin. But most people agree that nobody ever did him quite as well as Howard. Luckily, when the iPhone came out and had the ability to put your favorite music on, I figured out how to get my old vinyl albums into digital format to be loaded onto my phone. So I've been listening to Howard at a steady rotation for many, many years. Here's the actual album that I bought. You can see on the label here, there's two labels. The price says $1.98, and below that is another label that if you had peeled off the first one says DJ not for sale. I have the original album that came out to be used by DJs only, and somehow it ended up in a bargain bin somewhere. I don't really remember where I bought it, but I think for $1.98, it was the best buy I ever had in music. I've had so much enjoyment of this album. Now, Howard had a tough life. He left the music business because he wasn't getting much money out of it, went into insurance sales. He was living in Philadelphia. And then a tragedy struck. There was a house fire. His daughter was killed. His marriage broke up. He got into drugs, became a crack addict, and was homeless for a while. No one knew what had happened to him. And then somehow he got his life back together, became a preacher, and was rediscovered, had a second act of his music career starting around 2001. This video that I'm going to show you is from that later period. He died in 2011. I'm not sure exactly what the date of this is, but his voice is beautiful. It's almost like a recreation of the original track off the 1967 album.
And now I'd like to do my very first record that brought Howard Tate's name on the world scene. 1967 it was. It was a little tune called Ain't Nobody Home.
I just love that. Ain't nobody home. I've been known to say that very often, actually, on the tennis court, when all of a sudden you have the opportunity to hit a ball when your opponents are totally out of position. And I'll sing that little riff, Ain't Nobody Home. But of course, it's a much sadder story than that. It's all about love gone bad. Finally, after he begged and pleaded for her not to go, one day she did come home, or at least if she ever does come back, he's going to tell her, sorry, baby, you're too late. Ain't nobody home.
Ain't nobody home. How many times I begged for you to come home, but you laughed at me and said, let me alone. Through my burning tears, I saw you walk away.
love the whole arrangement, which is pretty faithful to the original recording. The horn section, the organ. Howard, very soulful voice, reminiscent, I guess, of an Otis Redding. But also, he did some blues classics, some B.B. King songs on this first album. So he was kind of a combination of soul and blues, which is maybe why he never made it big, because they didn't know how to categorize. I'm really happy. I didn't know actually that he had this second career, and I just thought he had disappeared, never to be heard from again. But I'm really happy to see that he did get his life back together and was able to go out and perform his old hits. And I guess he did a lot of new songs too in the early 2000s. It's a real testament, I guess, to him being able to come back from a very, very bad situation to get back on top of the world.
You can't come back here. Ain't nobody home. Once upon a time, you went on your way. I hope and pray that you come back someday. Time has made some changes, turned me upside down. Now you can beg me to forgive you. But this time, baby, it's your turn to pay. Ain't nobody home, girl. Ain't nobody home, girl. Ain't nobody home. Ain't nobody home. Ain't nobody
Absolutely fabulous. I'm so very happy to see this. I never saw any live performances by Howard back in the day, but what a great album. And in case you were wondering, what is that bulldog in the picture? What is that bulldog coming out of the middle of his body? Well, it's a reference to a very funny song that's on this album called "How Come My Bulldog Don't Bark When Big Jim Comes Around." He's got a meanest bulldog in town, except when Big Jim comes around, he seems to be very friendly all of a sudden. Wonder what's going on with that. He has that great falsetto. You know, he showed it a little bit in this song where he got that growly, raspy, bluesy voice, soul sound, but then he can hit those high notes in that falsetto as well. A really, really talented guy who never got really the acclaim that he should have back in the day, back in the 60s when soul music was a big thing. And, you know, everyone knows about Motown and all the great artists that recorded there. But being on Verve, he kind of got lost. You know, Verve was more of a jazz label, really, than a soul label. I don't know where this album was recorded. It may have been Philadelphia, probably. But the sound, it's very much got that Stax, Muscle Shoals, Southern rhythm section and horn section sound. It's just a beautiful combination of music and vocals and soul. And I hope you enjoyed this as much as I do.